Hi everyone, it's Ryan here from Blockchain Markets, and today I'm with Joel Raymond, the CEO of Emotiq. Hi Joel,
Hello
welcome.
everyone, how are you?
Hi, thank you for taking the time to talking to the Blockchain Markets community. So we got from the community the request of talking to Emotiq because a lot of people are starting to get excited about it, and then I thought I wanted to have a conversation with you to go through it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. We're getting swamped with interest lately. I guess
Yeah,
we're
I can
doing
imagine
something right.
lately. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate your time because of that. So Joel, for people that don't know you, if you can give us a brief background of yourself.
Well, let's see. I'm Russian-Cuban, Spanish citizen. I lived in the US for about 10 years, in Spain for 12, 13, etc. I was born and grew up in Russia, spent some time in Cuba. I've been programming professionally since 18, which would be for over 25 years now. And I have been in the crypto space for over a year. And my last position before starting Emotiq was as CTO of Eternity. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, for the guys that, well, I guess you guys in the community know, of course, Eternity is one of the, I think that today was like top 25, 28 by market cap. So it's quite a big project.
Yeah.
So maybe before we start, Joel, with Emotiq itself, and maybe it's also interesting for the people in the community to know, like when you moved from Eternity, did you start immediately with the idea of Emotiq, or how was that the process?
Well, yeah, I actually had this idea that I could do better. I mean, at Eternity, I organized development, built the development team, so put things on the sort of on the rails. But I figured I could do even better in terms of the approach to business, in terms of strategy, et cetera, et cetera. And I pretty much left with the idea of starting a project of my own. And a lot of folks joined, invested in Eternity because I was the CTO at the time. So it took me about 2 or 3 days, I don't remember exactly, to gather 2 million in Bitcoin from those folks. And that's what pretty much gave Emotiq the start.
Cool. So I think that's a good thing to start talking about, specifically about Emotiq. For the guys that don't know that, can you give us a brief of what Emotiq is?
Sure. So what we want to do, Ryan, is to be the Apple to other blockchains, Windows and Android. And everyone is pushing features, and it looks at this point, it looks a lot like the marketing that's being used with, let's say, Android phones and PCs, processor specs, amount of memory, et cetera, et cetera. And what we want to deliver is a user-friendly package, something that just works, something that's just lovely to use, at the same time with a very powerful blockchain engine beneath. So we want to give you a blockchain interface that's so friendly and natural, that even kids could use it. And there is a lot of complexity with the current crop of smart contract programming languages. They're basically created by programmers for programmers. And we want smart contracts to be accessible to non-programmers, and we want them to be as easy to read as a newspaper. Or, to put it differently, we want to give you a Formula One, race car, but we want to be able to use it with no training required.
Yeah.
And we should be able to deliver on that promise. through that friendly blockchain interface, super accessible. And we're actually going beyond that. We're going to be creating lots of documentation to explain not just Emotiq, but also blockchain in general. We're going to create courses, training, webinars. We want to make blockchain accessible to everyone.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because that's something that we usually discuss within the community. Is when does that at the moment is very niche, right? It's as you said, it's made for developers, by developers for developers, and then how is somebody going to create a smart contract if it doesn't know how to program or adapt? Yeah. So speaking of that, I think maybe you can walk us through on how will it work for somebody that is not technical, that would like to get into in creating a smart contract, for example. How would that work in Emotiq?
Yeah, we are actually. This is probably the hardest part. It may seem trivial, but it's probably the hardest. It's much harder than creating a blockchain, engine. This is something that I've done before, for example, but I haven't done this user-friendly smart contract implementation yet. So we were starting on it, but in a nutshell, if you ever played text adventure games like Dungeons and Dragons, if you Google, especially on YouTube, if you Google Zork, Z-O-R-K, or if you look up Inform 7, for example, so these are all text adventure games, text adventure engines that use a form of English, of plain English. It's not free, absolutely free for all. It's structured English, but it still looks like natural language. And the idea is to take that and apply it to the blockchain. And for example, you can imagine, let's say, you may have a contract, a programming sort of object with a variable, and then you can increment the balance, decrement, check it, etc. But that's the programming approach. But you could also imagine yourself in a room in some medieval castle. So the room will have a chest, and the chest will have coins. And you can approach the chest. You can either put coins in, you can take coins out, or you can count the coins. And maybe you will have a glowing orb in the middle of the room that says price line above it. And if you throw coins at it and pose a query like how much are the tickets to New York to LA, whatever, and it will give you the answer. And that's how it should ideally look like. Now, maybe you don't like the medieval World of Warcraft interface. Maybe you would prefer an office. You may have an office with a safe, and the safe may have bills in it, right? And it will work. It will just be a different skin, on the same cat, because tokens will be the same as coins, the same as bills, and the wallet will be the same as a chest, as a safe, or etc. So that's the general idea, to enable you to use whatever paradigm you are most comfortable with and sort of gamify smart contract development.
Yeah, that's really interesting. If it can be accomplished, would be a big step forward, because there's a lot of, as you said, one of the main problems now that we're facing is the adoption. I mean, the mass adoption, bringing people outside of the programmers world.
Yeah. And what we're also doing, rather than just drop some command line on your lab, some binary that you have to open a terminal window, command line, and start typing in commands, etc. We're trying to, even with our first release of the testnet, we're trying to give you cross-platform GUI applications. So the node management, the separate wallet, or the node with the built-in wallet, these will be cross-platform applications for Mac, Linux, and Windows that will look basically as good as Slack, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So, you can run Slack on any platform, it looks the same. So we're using exactly the same approach as Slack and other similar applications, we're using the so-called Electron UI to deliver a seamless cross-platform experience. So it's a big part of what we're doing. It's also accessibility. We just want you to double-click an application and presto have a running node or have a wallet and so on.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. I think like that. I don't want to get too technical because a lot of part of the community is not. But maybe you can tell us a bit of that. I think what's interesting is the relationship in the technology with Omni Ledger. For what I read in on the white paper, there's a relationship on that. Maybe you can tell us a bit more of how it's running on top of the Omni Ledger. We haven't seen a lot on the Omni Ledger side, so it's interesting to see some developments on that.
So part of the reason why I actually left Eternity to start Emotiq is because I wasn't able to. I wanted to implement Omni Ledger. I thought that was the latest and greatest, and I wasn't able to do it at Eternity. So I got in touch with the Omni Ledger team. I'm based in Zug, Switzerland. They're about 2 hours away in Lausanne. And I went through a white paper. I spoke with the guys. And what we ended up doing actually is improving on Omni Ledger. Omni Ledger is a collection of technologies. So what we are doing is we're just taking the ones we need, we want, improving, throwing the stuff that we can do better, and kind of putting together our own blockchain out of the pieces. But the essence of Omni Ledger is the consensus mechanism driven by so-called collective signing. So it's proof of stake. So there are no puzzles to solve. You run a lottery, and your chance of winning that lottery and signing the block is proportional to the amount of tokens you put in escrow or stake. That's proof of stake. And then what happens then is if you win the lottery, you are the leader of the round. You package the block and you throw it out there to all the witnesses, to the validators. They all check and the block you signed, make sure it's valid. If they think it's not valid, then there is a process to flag this, and you may potentially lose, your stake, a portion of your stake, because of cheating. But if everything is all right, then so long as 2/3, the majority, the supermajority of validators co-sign, witness and co-sign that block, then it's part of the blockchain. It becomes part of the blockchain.
Okay.
So unlike with Bitcoin and proof of work systems, where you have branches and so-called eventual consistency, you may have put in a transactions, bought something, sold something, and then it may look like it has taken hold, but it may be reverted later. In our case, it doesn't happen. As long as the transaction, as long as the block is approved, it's permanent. And this is so-called strong consistency. So we have strong consistency via collective signing, and this is the base part of Omni Ledger that we decided we are taking and implementing. And then the rest is things like sharding. We are reusing that. This sharding gives us the ability to scale. And then we're also improving on things like on what they're doing. They're using so-called Schnorr signatures, and we're using an even better approach to cryptography, so-called BLS cryptography. And we are able to do it because we have very strong cryptographers on the team. So we have a guy who is actually able to just read any cryptography paper and implement it. And this is what gives us the ability to improve on Omni Ledger, or look around and just steal the best out of from existing white papers, from existing technologies, and incorporate it into Emotiq. Something that we will continue to do as we go forward. We want to stay at the top, at the cutting edge of technology, blockchain technology.
And for that, I think it's crucial. I think what Emotiq has, and that's the reason why the community got so excited, because then, as you said, the team. I think that the team is very important if you want to have not only the knowledge, but also to be able to attract other people that would like to work for Emotiq as well. So I think that's, as you said, also if you want to move fast and be able to, in this specific case that you talked about, being able to read and understand different cryptography papers and in a short period of time, that gives you an edge and an advantage, right?
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. The team, the technical team, is basically is the best, probably the best feature of Emotiq. I'll be honest, I'm still struggling a bit with the marketing side. Being a technologist, I'm struggling a bit with the marketing side, with the non-technical side, but that part of the team is coming together already. But the technical, we're using Lisp. Lisp is actually a pretty powerful language. It has been with us for a while, and it's a quirky language. And I have hired a bunch of quirky people who are experts with that language. And I think that's the way to win, technically. To corner, to get the best, only the best. And Emotiq has pretty much cornered the market in top Lisp talent. I mean, these are all pretty senior, very senior developers, older than usual. I'm probably the youngest guy on the team, but these are very, very bright people and a completely awesome team. And we're looking to do great things together, and we're actually expanding the team. We are expanding slowly because, again, we're only looking to hire the best, but we're expanding. The team is technical team is about 8 people, I think, and we're going to continue expanding it. But the point is, we don't want to. Of course, we can just go out and hire 60 people and say, hey, we have 60 people, but with 60 people, you can probably be Apple or Microsoft. We don't need 60 people. We can do what we need to do with a small team, of excellent developers, and this is exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, interesting. And so I see also a parallel what would happen with other interesting projects like Cardano, for example, and Haskell, where every Haskell, they're looking for the best Haskell developers out there, and then they're looking at them as the place they want to, or the guys they want to work with. So in this case, with Lisp and Emotiq could be something similar as well. So we
are sidestepping a lot of issues. I mean, if we were to look for top Lisp, for top Haskell developers, well, we would find that we cannot get many because Cardano and others would have them.
Yeah.
There is an interesting language called Rust, but unfortunately, it's very hard to find developers because Parity and others basically have hired them away. And Lisp is our market, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's interesting to find one that you're really good at, and then try to leverage the most out of it. So that, yeah, it makes total sense, I think. Maybe we can discuss also the roadmap, like the next quarters of where you now, where's your focus, and then maybe we can go in through what is after that the big picture, what's the long-term view.
Sure. Well, our immediate focus is on releasing the testnet. First, the very, very basic testnet, so-called minimally viable product, the MVP. And that's, of course, that's always the hardest, the first version of any software. And once we do that, our development cycle is 2 weeks long. So every 2 weeks, we're going to steadily upgrade our testnet until we're satisfied with the quality, until it's mainnet quality, and then we'll flip the switch and convert it, to our mainnet. And that's our immediate focus. That's my immediate focus. Once we get that done, once we release the mainnet as quickly as possible, we will be adding features like Ring, the natural language smart contracts, and actually a lot of features we have planned, like the decentralized exchange, the DEX, the child tokens. So rather than have child tokens be smart contracts, we are building the concept into the blockchain. So you would be able to ICO on top of Emotiq. You will be able to split any number of the native token EMTQ into a derivative token and then trade all those tokens between themselves. For example, we are looking to do, to build a documentation base. We're looking to organize, and further on, we're looking to organize courses. We're going to switch more into developer marketing, so to speak. We are going to try to attract people, the non-programmers, and basically teach them how to use Emotiq and try to teach them what they can do with, how to do things with the blockchain. And the reason is no one knows what the ultimate application of the blockchain is at this point. And the only way to find out is to experiment.
Yeah.
And the only way to enable that is to actually give people the tools for simple, to experiment simply and quickly. And this is where we come in. This is the ultimate goal. So first we'll put in the foundation, the blockchain foundation, the basics, and then we'll steadily improve on the basics to deliver that promise of accessibility to non-programmers.
Yeah, that's very interesting because that has it's a big thing actually if you're able to accomplish all that. One thing, then one question that I got a lot of before the interview from the community is about the mainnet. As you said, the mainnet is towards the end of this year, right?
Yes.
And then in terms of ICO, you guys are looking to do an ICO later this year?
Well, we are a Swiss company. Emotiq is a bona fide Swiss company, and we're subject to the Swiss financial regulator. I mean, to the authority of the Swiss financial regulator, FINMA. And unfortunately, in the current climate, regulatory climate, it looks like a public sale is not just going to be possible. We want to be considered a utility token, not a security token. And for that reason, we can only do private sales and then release the mainnet as quickly as possible. And once the mainnet is released, even with the most basic functionality, then we are, we're a bona fide utility token, and we have no further issues because you can actually use the token for its intended purpose.
Perfect.
So we're skipping the ERC20 token because normally these tokens serve no purpose other than to trading, and it's not well. They're basically being looked at SQ by the regulators. So you cannot have, if you want to be a utility token, you really cannot have this temporary ERC20 token. We're skipping that, and we're skipping the public sale. We're doing 3 more private sales and then releasing the mainnet as quickly as possible. And once the mainnet is released, the token can get on the exchanges, and then we can do a series of hard forks to add new functionality.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Perfect. Got it. Thanks for the explanation, because there was a lot of questions I saw on Reddit regarding the ICO and regarding the ERC20 and why was not the plan of releasing the ERC20 after an ICO. So there won't be an ICO. It's private sale, and then the reason it's because you want to comply with regulators.
Pretty much, yeah. We want to be considered a utility token. Otherwise, we really have to be, registered as a security broker. We need to follow a whole bunch of security. I mean, it's an immense pain in the rear to be, to have a security token. And basically, a lot of existing ICOs, they're either skirting that even in the US, or they are just, flaunting the rules. Just trying to. Hoping for the best, hoping that no one is going to go after them. And we're trying to be, we're trying to follow the rules. We're trying to do everything by the book.
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
We want to be around for a long time, you know, and rather than spend the crypto we have collected, the investment, rather spend them to fight lawsuits or to fight regulators. We want to actually channel all those funds towards development, towards being the most accessible blockchain out there.
So let's discuss that briefly. With so you mentioned that where your focus will be with the funds, and then how are you gonna focus those funds mainly, as you said, like mainly as growing the community of and teaching the community of new developers on top of Emotiq?
We're actually updating the white paper as we speak. We should release the updated white paper early next week, which will have a pie chart explaining the allocation, well, the tentative allocation of the funds, because we'll tweak it as the business requires. But yeah, mainly we're going to use it to be around for a long time, to develop all sorts of great features, and to create that, to create the documentation, to create the courses, you know, to bring the blockchain to the masses, basically.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, and I think like maybe to now we're heading to towards the end of the interview. I think something really interesting would be to know what's your specific plan or strategy to get to this all these new people to start learning about Emotiq. Are you gonna have like well, you mentioned already that you're gonna start doing courses for people that don't know about Emotiq and don't know about the blockchain? Is the idea to have it as a sort of academy?
Yeah, academy, university, something like that. Webinars, you know, videos, YouTube channels. So a bit of a media, you know, mini media empire, just to bring blockchain closer to non-programmers.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, I think we covered almost everything, Joel. I don't know if there's anything else that we didn't, or I didn't ask you, or we didn't just talk about that you would like to.
Well, perhaps I should add that again, you know, we want to be around for a long time. We want to expand. So eventually, we're going to be looking to becoming self-sustainable and to becoming profitable. So we are actually going to try to, as part of doing that, we're going to try to first eat our own dog food and try to build applications on top of Emotiq. Perhaps it will be real-time communication, since we have a very virtual, very distributed team. Maybe it will be something else, but we're certainly going to try it. And then we're going to try to find applications for Emotiq to go after industry partnerships, to go after verticals, and probably sell applications built on top of Emotiq into those verticals, both promoting Emotiq and, you know, earning funds to keep the enterprise going. Yeah, so we're not looking to just blow through, you know, through the collected crypto, blow through the token reserve or whatever.
Yeah,
and just say, hey guys, you know, sorry, just take it from here. That's not the plan at all.
Cool. Well, that's interesting to know, because a lot of projects that's a good question, and I heard also Charles Hoskinson the other day talking about that on what happens when the funds are finished. So then, if you're already thinking about that problem that will come later, I think and you have a strategy on that. It shows that you guys want to be for in here for the long run.
Yeah, we're running this like a proper business.
Perfect. Yeah, it shows. And well, I think as I said, we covered like everything. I'd like to thank you, Joel, for taking the time and teach us in the community about Emotiq. And for everybody that wants to know more about Emotiq, go to the website, emotiq.ch. I'll put it also in the description.
Just join our Telegram channel.
Yeah,
that works.
I'll put it as well in the description. You guys can go there if you have any questions. Join the Emotiq's Telegram channel, and then you can take it from there. If you have any questions, ask it directly to them. And check the white paper you mentioned, Joel, that it will be an updated version, right?
Yeah, early next week. Yeah, we'll have the updated version. We'll publish the news on our official in our Telegram group and the official Telegram channel, Emotiq_official, so everyone will know.
Perfect. Yeah, as I said, guys, I'll leave everything in all the links in the description. So if you're interested in knowing more about Emotiq, go to the different links I'm going to put: the website, the white paper, the Telegram channel. And that's all for now. Thank you, Joel. I hope we can have a next conversation in a few months from now to see how everything is going after a few months.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Cool. And thank you, folks. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.